Now, if you're someone who's trying to rotate more in a downswing, but whenever you do, you notice you get back pain or pain in somewhere in the body. So that's a very common thing, and that's because there's a few things that you're doing in your golf swing that are causing that pain. It's not necessarily because of your body, it's because of your things that you're doing in the golf swing. So we're going to lay out 3 things here in this video, which is going to cause you to have pain either in the back or somewhere else in the body when you try to rotate. And of course, how to fix that. So I'm Jonathan Chown with JChownGolf. Let's dive right into it. So the first reason here to why a rotational downswing will hurt your body, and that is because your setup is far too bent over. So you'll be set up to the golf ball a little bit like this. So where you can see my knees have got quite a bit of flex to them. I've got a lot of hip hinge here. I've got a very straight back, and my armpits are extremely in front of my toes here. So they could be either in front of my toes or on my toes. See, really right now, I'm already feeling a lot of stretch up my hamstrings. So from here, why this is not a good setup for your golf swing in general is because, one, it's extremely hard to turn from here. Your body really struggles to rotate when it's bent over this much. So if you're trying to stay in this posture, stay very bent over, your body, again, like we said, is not going to want to rotate. It's going to be very resistant to it. So one, you're not going to get a good full turn in the backswing. You're going to get to around here because your body and your posture is not allowing you to turn. And two, if you stayed in that posture too much, again, me just trying to turn in that backswing, I'm already feeling a massive stretch going up my back. I'm barely open at all. And if I did that for a good amount of balls in the driving range, I'm really going to have to ice the back after that. My lower back will be very, very sore. What we will normally see people do when they have this type of setup is they will normally come out of their posture. They will early extend quite a lot of the time. Because one, the early extension will be to get your pelvis back underneath your body, which will be really preventing injury from happening, preventing your pain. Your body doesn't want to be in pain, so it will do something to try and make up for that. And two, there'll be a balance issue in the golf swing. So, because obviously the armpits, if they're in front or on the toes there, that means the mass of your upper body is too much in front of you. That'll cause your weight to go onto your toes. That'll cause a reaction of standing up to re-manage that weight again. So that will save your back doing that, but that won't be too consistent for you. Now, the remedy for this is, of course, change your posture. So we need to stand a little bit more like the guys did back in Nicklaus's era. We need to stand a little bit more like that, because you might notice those guys barely ever got injured and they had very rotational golf swings. It's kind of a funny word saying rotational golf swing, because golf swing is a rotational sport. Golf is rotational. So they had, let's say, more free-flowing rotation than a lot of players have done in the past 20 years. Part of that's because their posture. So what they stood to the golf ball like, they had pretty straight legs, only a slight little bend to them. They had their pelvis quite tucked underneath their body, and they had a little bit of a round to the upper back. That caused their armpits to be over the balls of their feet. So really from there, their body was now way freer to get a nice full turn. And in the downswing there, their body would be way more incentivized to get in good posture in the way down, really have those hips move backwards in good depth, have good forward bend here to really get on top of that golf ball with nice rotation. Doesn't hurt me one bit doing this, but if I was here, that hurts a lot. So get that pelvis tucked underneath you. Have those armpits now over your balls of your feet, so you're going to have a slight round of the upper back, a little bit straighter with those legs, and then you're going to be freeing up your turn massively. This is going to be, most of you out there watching this are going to need to do this here. So, and then you'll be able to hit a shot, and one, your rotation is going to be way better, and you're going to feel, finally, I'm not in pain when I'm rotating. So the second reason to why you could be in pain when you're trying to add more rotation into your golf swing is because at the top of the backswing, you are holding far too much flex in that trail leg. So when we're holding too much flex in that trail leg at the top of the backswing, then when we move in the downswing, what's going to happen from there? And when we try to rotate, ultimately, we're not going to rotate that well. So when we have the right leg too flex at the top of the swing, that causes the hip tilt to be very level. So when the hip tilt is level, so both hip bones are level with each other, that's going to cause the pelvis to do this. Slide in the downswing. So whenever the pelvis is level with a tilt, it will want to slide rather than turn. So you'll have more slide than you would do turn there. So if you're trying to slide and turn, 1. That's going to create a lot of right side bend. Just generally losing the tilt will create a lot of side bend, early side bend, to where that right side drops down early. That will create a ton of tension in the lower back. But then if you're trying to turn and torque at that same time, wow, that's so much tension that's going into that lower spine there. So you can imagine what that would do to your golf swing over time and do to your back. 1, you hit poor shots, and 2, you'll absolutely fry your back. Players out on tour who have this similar problem. Jason Day, obviously incredibly skilled golfer, can make the move work, but he's always out because of his back. In the ladies game, Michelle Wee, very similar problems. She sees again, great player, very fried lower back there. They both keep too much flex in that trail leg. Then tilt slides, upper body falls back, and they still would try to rotate and get open. So much tension created there. So our remedy to this again is doing the opposite. We want to be straightening, losing flex in that trail leg as we get up to the top of the backswing. We don't want to completely straighten it to lockout. We just want to straighten it just short of that. So when that right side or trail side is straightening, it's extending the right hand side of your body. So that's going to make the right hip higher than the left hip there. So that's going to create a hip tilt. Then when you move in the downswing from there, you move your pressure into your lead side. That's going to keep the left hip down. So now your pelvis isn't going to slide away from you. You're still going to shift your weight, but your pelvis is now going to be more inclined to shift and turn rather than having a lot of shift and slide. So that's going to keep upper body and lower body nicely connected to each other. Upper body's going to stay on top for a lot longer now. So now when I turn through the golf ball, extend that lead side as I'm going through, now I'm not having all this separation, I'm not tilting back aggressively, and now I can just focus on, right, keeping that left side down and turning through that shot nicely. I've got way less stress on that lower back now from doing that, because I'm not having to slide and tilt back early and turn. Painful. So to make this possible, we need to straighten up that right leg as we get up to the top of the backswing. That's going to create that tilt, and then we get our pressure into that left side, turn through the golf ball, and then that's going to be a much safer move on that lower back here. So let's have a little look at one. Really feel like you're freeing up that lead, or that trail side, sorry there, and then you'll be having a much more pain-free downswing. It's really important to do this. You're really going to destroy your lower back if you keep this flexed for too long, even if you are trying to rotate or not. So let's have a good one here. So if you are looking to rotate more in a golf swing and you want to do it properly, I've got a course out called The Ultimate Guide to Rotation in a Downswing. I'll put a link down in the description for it. But once you get to my coaching profile after you've downloaded the Skillist app, there's just a little button called More next to Online Lesson. You click on that, then it will say Online Courses, click on that. There's the course. And what that course will do, it will show you exactly how to add rotation in your downswing for your downswing as well, teach you why you're not rotating properly in the downswing, good drills to do, and a good structured practice once you've identified why you're personally not rotating to go and fix the problem. So if you want to rotate more, highly recommend picking that up. So the third reason to why when you're trying to rotate is causing pain, and this is because of your feet. This is your feet at setup. So this would more create pain around your hip region, so it will really cool just around your legs. So what we're seeing, players looking like this at setup, dead straight feet. So might think there's nothing wrong with this at all. That's what you're meant to do, isn't it? Having your toes point dead straight. That's a normal, good, standard setup. So what this does, this closes off your hip joints. So this again, quite like the first one, this will stop you from rotating anyway. But if you try to, definitely cause some pain. So when the feet are straight, closes off the hip joints. So the hips can now really have a very limited range of motion that they can perform. So if I show you here by just trying to rotate from setup, so let me try and rotate into a downswing kind of move. I've got my feet dead straight, rotate as much as I can. That's about it. If I try to do it even more than that, yep, I'm really feeling some pain now. I'm feeling actually in my upper back or my lower back here. Sorry, right now, yeah, not really going to work too well. So, closes off the hip joints. So, what we want to do we actually want to open and flare those feet. So you might see a lot of golfers with their front foot slightly flared out, but you can do it with your back foot as well. Looks funny, sure, but doing this, it will free up the range of motion of your hip joints, give you a freer turn in the backswing, give you freer turn in the downswing. Let me do the exact same thing as I just did then. So now I've got my flared feet out here, so my feet are pointing out and away from me. Now I'm going to do the same thing, rotate as much as I can with my hips until I physically stop. It's about as much as I can do there. So you can see I've rotated them like mad, like way more. Again, for reference, let's do the dead straight feet. So now I'm doing this. So you can see a little bit of a, you know, side by side almost there. Rotate as much as I can. Well, that's about as much because that's causing pain pretty much everywhere in my body. Yep, let's stop that. So that's one thing when I hear a lot of golfers trying to rotate the downswing and they can't. You'll see them again. They'll probably have bad posture and they'll be doing this with their feet, and most likely they'll be keeping their trail leg bent at the same time. So that's, you know, no wonder why it hurts you and you can't rotate at the same time. So flare out those feet. Now, the least, or let's say the less mobile you are, so the less athletic you are, you can flare it out loads. So for me, I flare it out quite a bit because I'm not that mobile. So flaring it out quite a bit, that's going to help you good rotation in the backswing and in the downswing. Why wouldn't we want to do it? Looks funny, but we've got to get out of the style, you know, the way of style over substance. It's substance over style. Who cares what you look like if you're hitting good golf shots? So if you're making sure that you're doing the 3 correct ways of those reasons then, you know, clearing all that up, you're definitely not going to be having that much pain in your golf swing when you're trying to rotate, because our levels of rotation will all be different depending on your athletic ability, but we can all rotate the body. We can do that. You know, people are very good at rotating from your rib cage and down. That's a movement we can all do fairly well. Now, of course, if we have problems with our back, maybe we've got fused spine in some area, that you might really struggle from doing it. But we can all rotate to some degree. We might not all be Dustin Johnson through the ball there, but we might be a little bit like a Molinari, for example, just a little bit open. We can all do it, and we can do it without pain. But we have to make sure that our body is doing the right things to make that not happen. So thinking that when you're trying to rotate, that it's going to straight away cause pain, because rotating causes you pain, that's because you're doing things poorly before they're usually in the setup there or backswing movement. So rotation is something we can all do. It's just a movement pattern. It's not a method of swinging. It is just a way and a movement that your body wants to do. We all have rotation in it. It's not a swing method. It is just a way of movement with the body. We've just got to let it and allow it to happen, and it will improve our golf swing by quite a bit. So if you enjoyed this video, of course, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction just like this, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So make sure you got these 3 points, and you'll be in a lot less pain.